Thank you for joining us today on Earthfile. Welcome to the program. I'm Ayola Kasim. Among the most diverse places on Earth, key biodiversity areas contribute significantly to the planet's biodiversity and overall health. These sites have proven to be a key tool for guiding decisions on conservation and sustainable management. As of 2026, over 16,600 key biodiversity areas have been identified across terrestrial, freshwater, and marine ecosystems worldwide, covering approximately 21 million square kilometers. As of January 2026, Nigeria has 30 confirmed key biodiversity areas. 27 of them are known as legacy sites, while 3 new global sites are also part of it. These sites provide critical habitat for non-avian species as well. Emerald Forest Reserve in Osun State is the latest site on this list. It celebrated its official designation on the 22nd of January 2026. Today on the program, we'll look at the importance of these crucial places on our planet, where unique species and ecosystems occur in important numbers. Do stay with us.
About 13 leading conservation organizations, global conservation organizations, came together and said it's time for them to use one currency in conserving biodiversity, because you have BirdLife International promoting important bird areas, you have plants important areas, you have zero extinction sites, so you have different sites, and sometimes when you meet policymakers, they are confused. But at the end of the day, everybody is trying to conserve biodiversity from their own prism, from their own point of view. So they came together and said, no, it's good for us to have one currency. And led by IUCN in 2016, the key biodiversity area was birthed. And that is where we started talking about key biodiversity area. So, and key biodiversity areas are areas that promote the conservation of global biodiversity conservation or species conservation. It promotes it. So whatever is happening locally, it contributes to the global conservation of species. That is what key biodiversity areas are. And in every country, there's what we call the National Coordination Group of the key biodiversity areas. A National Coordination Group is made up of representatives of the leading conservation organization, the global leading conservation organization, and the government agencies that are responsible for conservation in the country. Now, the legacy key biodiversity areas are areas that were so designated as IBAs or zero extinction areas or plant important areas. So, but all of these now, because they've met those criteria, they are now legacy KBA. For instance, we had IBAs in Nigeria. So these important bird areas are regarded, because they are important bird areas, and BirdLife International is part of the KBA partnership. So automatically all IBAs become KBAs, but legacy KBAs, because they are transiting from IBAs to KBAs. So, and then there are other areas that will now be profiled based on the criteria of KBA to be able to see if they meet the standard of being a KBA. So Emerald is the first fresh KBA in Nigeria that we started the analysis and the profiling right from time through the work of Dr. Wale Aweyemi of IIT. He was able to discover the breeding pairs of Ibadan Malimbe here.
We call them trigger species. There are about 70 of them that were documented in the reserve, but a particular one stands out, and that's the Ibadan Malimbe. This is an endemic species, meaning that it can only be found within a very small area in southwestern Nigeria and no any other place in the world where you can find this species. So such species are classified as endemic, which means if anything happens to them in this very small area, the species will go into extinction. We don't have it again. So, and that's why it's a very important species. This species is not only important because it is endemic, we also have very few individuals in the wild. So, and according to the IUCN, which is the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, classify this species as endangered. So the Ibadan Malimbe is endemic and endangered. So wherever you find this species, then you know that the forest is rich and is worth protecting. So the forest, the IITA Forest Center started documenting bird species in the Emerald Forest Reserve since 2017. So between 2017 and 2023, we carried out a regular bird survey to actually discover species. I call them trigger species, the species that are restricted to the kind of forest type that you have in southwest Nigeria, which in technical terms, we refer to it as a Guinea-Congo forest biome. So we documented them, and Ibadan Malimbe was really documented in Emerald Forest Reserve. And given the long-term bird monitoring between 2017 and 2018, we not only documented this species in the Emerald Forest Reserve by citing it, but we actually documented the breeding evidence. So it's not that this species is occasionally occurring in Emerald Forest Reserve. It's living there because it's breeding there. And then prior to our survey, there was no documentation of the recording, the song, how this bird calls. We refer to it as bird calls. So we were able to document it for the first time in this forest reserve.
If you spend time in this forest, the forest is very dense. And when the sun tries to penetrate through the forest canopy, when you look up, you see a very bright green, almost like crystal green. And our parents, when they used to be alive, which was several decades ago, they used to say that the canopy looks like emeralds. And so that's how the name stuck, the Emerald Forest Reserve. It's because of the interplay between the sunlight and the very thick forest canopy cover, which is green naturally. Well, this is something that the family has been working on for decades and decades. It's been, you know, all our lives since we were children, we've been working on protecting the environment. And this just happens to be one of the projects that we've been working on. Since I've been a teenager and a young adult, we've been working on environmental protection. Even before I became a political appointee in Lagos.
KBAs, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor and privilege that on behalf of the National Coordination Group of the key biodiversity areas, the National Coordination Group is made up of different conservation organizations with a secretariat at the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, and on behalf of the Global Secretariat of the KBAs based in Cambridge, I hereby present the certificate for the key biodiversity area of Emerald Forest Reserve. Please, they are by your miss.
The family has worked very hard to achieve this status. It required many years of data collection to prove that there is a rich biodiversity both in flora and fauna, meaning plants and animals. And we've done bird counts, we've done amphibian counts, we've done tree counts. We've documented everything very carefully with partners like IITA and Leventis and Forest Reserve Research Institute of Nigeria, Nigerian Institute of Medical Research, Liverpool University. So all collectively, the early data is what helped to achieve the status of key biodiversity area, which is a global award. It's awarded by an international community that recognizes the efforts of conservation, and that we've actually achieved a status that they have recognized, and we met the criteria.
And you know, there's one thing for you to actually implement conservation projects. You write technical reports. So we were able to document this evidence and publish it in scientific journals. So our monitoring activities were backed by science and then validated through scientific publications. When we knew what we were looking for, and when we got it, we knew that this shouldn't sit in our desk. We really need to push out, and then there is a process you have to follow. There is a KBA secretariat, which is the Key Biodiversity Area Secretariat, and the Nigerian Conservation Foundation is the local partner in Nigeria. So through the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, we were able to submit our evidence that the Ibadan Malimbe is found in this habitat. You know, there are lots of photographic evidence and also videos, the cause, the breeding evidence of this species in the Emerald Forest itself. So we documented it, and through NCF, we submitted the application. It took some time, almost 2 years, before it was granted.
They approached us as NCF, as the Secretariat of the NCG of the KBA in Nigeria, to be able to see how we'll be able to profile it. So we did it at no cost at all. All needed to be done was the data that had already been collected. So we profiled it, and then we saw that it met the criteria. And we contacted the Secretariat, and the Secretariat approved it, and they have a certificate as a KBA. I want to get people involved, to know, to the awareness about what is happening in the environment, because we as humans don't occur alone. We occur with these species, and they're important to us. So the more we know them, and the more we'll be able to say, okay, yeah, these species, some even used to see them, they are very common. Now they are rare. So these are some of the species that you need to trigger. Say, okay, so by the time we profile them, we'll be able to know whether they are still as common as they used to be, or there's a need for us to highlight them.
Ficus mucuso is one of the species I used to treat people with prostate enlargement. My name is Dr. Dewo Akini Samuel. I'm from Forest Research in Nigeria. I am an ethnobotanist, as I used to tell people, but people call me herbalist. You know, for the academic purposes, we use ethnobotany, but locally they may be saying herbalist. Because herbalists are people that deal with plants, or with herbs. Emerald should have herbal clinic center, supposed to be established here, whereby people will be coming from outside, taking their healings. Because some of the species here, they are medicinal, highly medicinal. And there is a particular tree that I couldn't find somewhere else that I found here. We call it Petrogota microcappa. It's very bad. I'm a native of this land. I mean, Ikire area, that's my area. I used to go to some of this reserve, and some of this Petrogota I'm talking about is no longer there, but it's here. And it's very powerful in treating epilepsy. Someone that have epilepsy, someone with a convulsion, yes, someone that would have convulsion, it will treat it completely. We have used it. This is what we have used, and we have found them to be useful. Very, very good. It's a good plant. Like this one now, they call it Clausena anisata. In Yoruba, they call it Atampari obuko. Atampari obuko. Very, very powerful for analgesic. We used to treat people with serious pain, like people with lumbar spondylosis or cervical spondylosis. Anything that has to do with pain, this plant is very, very good. This plant, this tree, this is a tree. We call it Ficus mucuso. Ficus mucuso. If you can peel, just peel the stem back and subject it into eating. You mean you boil it, you can be taking it 2 times, 1 teacup, 2 times daily. In fact, it is enough to handle prostate enlargement.
Species we have here is enough for ethnobotanists to come and make this place a laboratory. The species we have here is enough for research purpose. The species we have here is a replica of what we can call rainforest ecological zone. So having this forest, you don't need to go and look for different kinds of maybe rainforest alone. Again, this is a true replica of rainforest we have in Nigeria. If you go to, I've worked in Omo Biosphere Reserve, I've worked in Oban Biosphere Reserve, I've worked in Okwango Biosphere Reserve. These are, the ecology we can call tropical rainforest. So Emerald Forest Reserve keys into that ecological zone. So it's a key biodiversity area, and it is good that it has been recognized globally.
So here at Emerald Forest, we come here to release animals that we have rehabilitated for quite a period of time. These are animals that have been rescued either from the wildlife trade or animals that have been seized. Pangolins are actually listed as endangered under the IUCN status, which means their numbers have drastically reduced and are at the risk of getting extinction, because pangolins, known to be the world's most trafficked animal, it is important that when we rescue these animals, it is important that they have to be reintroduced to the wild so that we can, especially spaces like this in Emerald Forest, so that they can be able to repopulate and also thrive once more in nature. Now this tells a lot. Besides pangolins, we work with duikers, with civets, with barn owls, with pythons, and other kinds of other bird species also. And we ensure that these animals, whether they are near threatened or endangered or critically endangered, the rewilding process is key for these animals to ensure that they are sustained in our ecosystem. And for every one of us as Nigerians, it's important we understand that wildlife needs protection. We need to protect our wild species, because without them, there will be no us. The pangolins control termite population. A loss in the pangolin population will see a bloom in termite population. A bloom in termite population will lead to us humans beginning to resort to inorganic means of controlling termites, which includes the use of heavy, dangerous chemicals. Now, these chemicals stay in our ecosystem and poison the ecosystem and leads to a lot of life-threatening diseases for us humans. And that is why we must allow nature to run its course. We must allow what nature has placed as a proper control measure to remain in place so that we also can survive and thrive in this ecosystem.
Yoruba people would say, oh, Iroko as a species is a very hard wood. You hardly see it again. Very hard one. If you use Iroko for construction, you don't even need to add any chemicals to it. But right now, you cannot see Iroko along Lagos-Ibadan Express just like that. Come to Emerald. Before you trek 1 kilometer, you see hundreds of different species. Within 100 meters, you see numbers of different species that you can even travel from Lagos to Ibadan, from Ibadan to Badagry, you will not see. But this is just a concentration of how a true tropical rainforest should be.
So it's a primary forest?
Primary forest, thank you. It's a primary forest. And good thing about this rainforest ecosystem is that even if you've been able to have activities on the forest, maybe for different activities, the moment that place is closed for activities, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 50 years, it will look like the primary forest again, because the best you can do for a forest to grow is to have total protection.
The major lesson is education and community engagement. If you don't take the community along with you, you're sailing up against the tide. You know, you really need to educate the community, and they need to be part of it. They need to own it. So yes, we own this forest, but the community are our stakeholders, and they feel that they own it as well. And so I think that's the key. You know, if you get the community, if you get their buy-in and you get their trust, then it starts to become a bit easier. The general trend in this environment was to harvest wood. You know, so logging was the order of the day for almost 100 years. You know, so us coming in here 30 years ago to say there will be no logging in this particular environment was almost like an anomaly. You know, why would you do that? What, you know, logging is money, you know, but we said, no, we have a different plan. You know, we're not into logging. We want to make money in a different way, you know, and sustainable conservation, ecotourism, and carbon sinking is some of the ways in which we want to show the community that there are other ways that you can generate a livelihood other than exploiting nature. So this is just a model. We've proven to the community that we don't have to log, that you can use your natural resources in better ways, which also help the environment, which help the state, which help the country, and which helps humanity. So if everybody logs out, then climate change just becomes more aggressive, you know. So we hope that showing what we've done here, other people will take this model and replicate it, and Nigeria can start to reverse the massive deforestation that's happening in the country, which is contributing to the climate variability that we're all experiencing. The rivers are getting lower, the land is getting drier, the desert is coming south, you know, so we are experiencing intense heat and dehydration of the ecosystem, and that's because we've removed the forest cover and other types of eco-habitats. And so as a government, I know the government is really interested in climate mitigation and climate adaptation. All kinds of advocacies are going on. I believe that the government is going to make some major effort to reverse environmental degradation.
Having this kind of forest here is a repository center where other animals scattered in the free area would like to come for protection. So in terms of that we have, and we did the nutrient analysis of this place, of the soil. It's very, very, the nutrient is very, very high.
And we have 3 reproductive units, which it may sound small, but because of the population size of Ibadan Malimbe, it's enough to trigger this place as a KBA, Emerald Forest Reserve. And one of the important things about the significant thing about the Emerald Forest Reserve is a privately owned estate. And that shows that it's not only government that can do this. Individuals as well can get involved.
And you know, it's that sort of story we need to tell for people to understand the relevance and the importance of Nigeria and of Africa in the global scheme of climate change. So we talk about carbon footprints, but you know, the biomists have had to invest in this forest for us to be able to hopefully reap the carbon footprints. But how many can actually do that? So yes, tourism is certainly one of the areas we can develop to make this a win-win for all.
Well, it's almost like a dream come true, you know, to receive an international award for decades of hard work and effort. It's almost unbelievable, but I think the reality is sinking in. Family is very, very proud. The community are very excited because it's bringing visitors to the area, it's creating recognition. So we're elated, to say the least. We're very, very, very appreciative, and we're very proud of the collective effort to achieve that status. It's not easy to get a KBA. To achieve KBA is a very, very difficult thing, and you know, the amount of work that's gone into it makes us really happy.
From lush rainforest teeming with life to colorful coral reefs under threat. We cannot afford to lose these vital sites. As we face a global environmental crisis, environmentalists warn that it is crucial to focus our collective efforts on protecting sites that have global significance. And with that, we end today's show. Thank you for watching. We hope to be back next week.